our kids that you should also tolerate this and accept it.
Well, while we wait on everybody to get back in here, oh gosh, I guess they got us for policy violations. I probably said the F word too many times. That's tough, dog. That's tough. They were asking about Rumble earlier too.
I know, literally.
We are
They
live
were
on
saying
X too. Chat, where you at? Turn that down.
That's funny.
Josh,
Whoops. Sorry.
they got us, dude. They got us. Here, let's go. Let's go to this real quick.
We should not. All right.
I guess it was a copyright. Let me see if I can find out.
We got copy.
I think I would imagine that's what it was.
Everyone is saying L Zeb F word because you said
because FAGG O T Daily Wire. No, it would have been the Tucker Carlson Network. But I don't think they've been copywriting. See, I don't have a restriction or a copyright on it, so it must have been because said
we
a
were
bad
just
word.
talking about that, Gunner, where we were like, and he was talking about going on Rumble beforehand. That's crazy.
F's in the chat, boys. I guess we'll get a strike for that one. Yeah, I need to set Rumble up.
Donald
We'll start
Trump,
going.
please save us, Donald Trump.
We'll start going live on my X and my Rumble. I guess I need to pick that up.
That's a good question, though.
What's that?
Is policy-wise, why is Donald Trump not going hard on the censoring?
That's a good question, dude.
Because he didn't towards the end of his first term. Thank God Elon acquired Musk because we would be
acquired Musk. Elon acquired X.
Yeah, acquired X. Because we'd be in liberal censored hell. I mean, YouTube is the same. And even my boomer coworkers use Grok instead of Google these days. Because Google, ever since Sundar Pichai took it over, has gone to...
Josh, I think I'm going to switch us. If you're going to look at the screen, we're going to switch.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I don't know why we're not going after social media, or at least the censorship side of it. That's a good question, dude.
Those
stick bundles.
Dang stick bundles.
You think that's what it is? It's got to be what it is.
Oh yeah. I don't think we got.
I don't think we got copyrighted
because here's the thing, we've said it before.
Okay, we're gonna try
but
again.
You have kind of like you talk kind of low.
I'll take 2 strikes in a row.
I think you yelled it and it heard you. You know, like because you yelled it, like it was able to catch it this time. Because usually, we kind of go like these. But you screaming it in the mic. I think that's what happened.
Already fighting enough legal battles? Yeah, probably, man. I think that's the point. They just want to throw so much at him that he can't do anything. All right, so here's what we're going to try to do. Fix my mustache. Here's what we're going to do. Guys, if you want to grow your mustache out, don't. Just keep it short, because anytime you eat, it's like you just eat your mustache, especially like I like chips and dip, right? Especially like some cheese dip, some queso, some good queso and chips, Josh. All in the mustache. Bro.
Oh, that's why
in the mustache.
That's why we were on the sides, because when we look at each other, that's why we were. That's why we were on those sides.
Yeah. Anyway,
we'll just have to look at each other on
flip it
screen.
All right, we're good now. Let's see if it keeps going. I think it was because I dropped the F-bomb. The real F-bomb, I guess, is what it is now, because nobody cares about the other one.
Y'all had me worried because, for us, we couldn't tell. And then all of a sudden, the chat just started getting pammed with F. And I was like, what does that mean? And
I was like, did I say something crazy? I mean, I know I did. I didn't think it was that crazy. Yeah, it's got to be. Dude, okay. That's the real F-bomb now. Nobody cares about the other word anymore, Josh.
Okay, so I'm not on X.
All right, we're going to try to run this thing back. I know about where we were. We'll see if it was a copyright strike. If it was, they'll copyright strike us again. But at least on my YouTube, it doesn't say it was. So I think it was just taken off. It says for policy violation. So I would assume it's because of we said a bad word. Yeah. And there's only like 3 bad words. One starts with a K, one starts with an F, and one starts with an N. Any other bad words, Josh, that you can think of?
I don't think like the George Carlin bad words are even bad anymore by YouTube standards. I think you can say the F word. Like
No, not
the F-U-C-K
Yeah,
word.
yeah. We gotta
Can you
reorganize our
say-
bad words.
Can you say spick, beaner?
Okay, Josh. Josh, we just started back.
Engaged in sexual acts, and even worse than that, they're going into the school systems. They're putting this stuff in the school. They're trying to tell my kids. Well, my kids aren't in the school system, but they're trying to tell our kids.
Do the authorities know your kids aren't in the school system?
They do now. Yeah. We still, I'm in Tennessee, so we still have that right in Tennessee so far.
Matt
But then they start
Walsh
going into the
has
school system. They start promoting this. They start trying to
got a
tell
few- I
our
think
kids
there's a few of them.
that you should also tolerate this and accept
I
it
think there's
and
4 or
embrace
5.
it and celebrate it. There's what they're telling kids in school about homosexuality, for example, is not just biology. There's a moral message. They're giving them a moral message, and the moral message is this is okay. There's nothing wrong with it. This is a gay couple is equal in every way to a straight couple. These are just different variations. It's morally neutral. That's their message. That's ideology. That's not biology. And once you start doing that, then it's like very clear how this affects me.
But how does it affect the society?
Well, it fundamentally transforms society and our basic priorities, how we live, what matters to us.
It scrambles the gender role.
Yeah, it says stream suspended for policy violations. So I guess we said a bad word, Josh.
Schmuckatelli. got him.
Whoopsie
I
doopsie.
know.
Whoopsie doopsie.
So you can say it, but you have to do a heavy Southern accent and you have to be a foot away from the mic. That's the rule from now on.
That's what I notice, and that's what upsets me most, because I think everything is built on biology, on nature, and gender roles are a function of nature. And I think if you scramble that, if you confuse that,
Hey, if we can't get the stream back going, everybody that's in the chat, I know it's not too many of you yet, but throw this thing a like, and maybe we can push it out. I'll try to refrain from saying YouTube bad words the rest of the stream. I can't guarantee tomorrow though.
if you convince people that there's no difference between men and women, like that's when civilization falls. Then you have like women fighting your wars.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And gender roles is another one. That again, it goes back to human civilization worked a certain way for thousands of years, and it seemed to work. And we went from mud huts to walking on the moon, if you believe we walked on the moon, which I absolutely do.
Wait, you are taking some bold positions.
that is bold. That is bold.
I know. You're taking on the entire internet.
We
Gunnar asked if YouTube. Yeah, they run AI. They run AI on this to pick it up. So, I mean, I'm not putting the ladder to rest, but they do.
We gotta kind of like how Myron says, "Them boys." We gotta come up
boys.
with a our own slurs.
our own slurs. Let's do it, dude.
we went from there
Whatever
to
comes
there
out.
with a kind of basic structure, with a basic setup. Gender roles. is one of them.
Boykins
There's
are
like
adopting
they were so
babies,
basic, so
renting
fundamental
wombs.
that you didn't have a word for it. If you go back to 1700 and use the term gender roles to anyone, they're not gonna have any idea what the hell you're talking about, even though their entire society is structured around it.
Exactly.
And this is true even now. If you go outside of the kind of
Yeah, this goes back to language. He's talking about if you went back to the 1700s. I think he's referring to when he did his movie, the documentary, "What Is a Woman," where he went to these African tribes. You try to ask them. You ask them what is a woman. They don't really understand the question because it's not even a question to be asked, right? So they don't even understand that there is a question. And so when you ask them about what is gender roles, and he kind of plays this off of the 1700s in America, you ask them what is gender roles, it's just understood. It's not even a question to be thought about. It just is because it's natural, and that's the way it ought to be.
liberal Western bubble, which I've done once when we were doing What Is a Woman. We went to Kenya. We talked to the Maasai tribe in Kenya.
Did they know what a woman was?
Spoiler.
They didn't know what a woman was. They were confused by the question, not because they didn't know the answer, but because they couldn't possibly understand why it would even be asked. Right. But then I remember a lot of this didn't make it in the movie because it wasn't totally connected, but talking about gender roles with them. And again, they had no idea what that term even meant. But their whole society is completely structured around it. It was, if you're a man, this is what you do. If you're a woman, this is what you do.
Workshop it, Ninja. We'll
And that's
workshop
it.
it.
And I remember asking one of the women, I was in her hut, which is actually made of like cow dung, and it's a one-room hut, and they all sleep on one bed, mud floor. And she was telling me what she does all day as the woman of the house, which is she takes care of the house, she takes care of the kids. And I asked her if she was happy doing this, and she laughed at me because it was such a ridiculous question. Because of course she is. And then I asked about depression, and this might be in the movie. I said, where I come from, there's a lot of people are depressed. And one of the guys said to me, well, we don't have that here. We don't do that. We don't have depression. That's not a thing here.
Can we skip
And it's
forward? Maggots. That one might actually catch their algorithm because it's like they're listening in with AI. That's a good one though. I like where your head's at, Malarkey.
Yeah, we're gonna have to skip ahead a little bit.
Yeah, the whole
It's going-
Did you even watch the "What Is a Woman" documentary?
Yeah, did you not?
No.
Uncultured.
It's like that famous the De Gaulle line, which I think is probably fake. We know it works in practice. The question is, does it work in theory?
Yeah.
And I do feel like that's in operation in the United States. It's like, well, people have the right to X, Y, or Z, therefore we're doing this. And it's like, actually, that's a disaster. But people have a right. You know what I mean? It's like there's no reference point in reality there. It's just like the theory makes sense. Let's go with it.
Yeah, and that's why increasingly, when people start talking about their rights, it doesn't mean a lot to me. I don't even know what people mean when they say it. I'm not trying to be pedantic, but the next time someone says, well, I have a right to this, just ask them, well, what do you mean you have a right to it? What does that mean?
No, I know.
They really have no...
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to what we were talking about the other day, specifically with the debate, but I mean, it's applicable across everything. The problem is people don't think through things. They don't know things. They don't have any self-awareness, and they rarely have consciousness. They're all NPCs, and all they can do is regurgitate what they're taught. And the regurgitation is a issue with IQ, and then on top of that, being able to, like Matt Walsh was talking about rights here, what is a right? And a lot of these people don't know, and it's because they've never even been questioned on it. But even if you haven't been questioned on it, you should be able to just kind of spit something out that's pretty close. And so the problem is they can only regurgitate, they can't process.
And Ninja of Spades says, not like separately, he says, gender has always been sex without connotation of intercourse. Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing. I don't know if you thought this, but when I was a when I was a kid, I thought the word gender meant the same thing as sex, but it was like, okay, we have to teach these kids about like sex, but we don't want them to say the word sex because it's inappropriate because they're like 5 years old. So we just say gender.
Well, that's what it was.
Exactly.
That's what it always has been. It's interchangeable. It literally means the same thing up until like
and that
6 years ago.
And exactly, that's why they have to say gender ideology. They can't just say gender because gender ideology isn't what gender meant up until they added ideology behind it.
Again, the left is winning this battle on language, and the right has to wake up to it.
They don't know what they're saying. I think the vast majority of people talking about their rights, if you ask them to define the word right, they would not be able to do it.
Define anywhere. What's white supremacy? What's racism? What's anti-Semitism? What is any word used as a cudgel to make people be quiet and control them? No one ever is forced to define what the term means.
Right.
In fact, there are even laws that I'm around those questions that are laws. They carry punishments, and the term is never defined.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a trend where language isn't used to communicate; it's used to control, and therefore it has to remain not fully defined.
Right. And that's why I think
there you go.
All I can do in response to that is if it's one of these terms that
I'm the new Tucker. Let's go.
doesn't mean anything anymore.
Yeah.
Then it's
Soon, boys. Soon.
It's not persuasive to me in an argument.
Right.
Ninja makes his point. Rights are religious. Rights are, and maybe we'll define it because they don't hear. Rights are given to us by God, right? By nature. They aren't rights because they were written down on a piece of paper. They're not rights because the government allows you to do the thing. They are rights because they are given to us by nature, and that by nature is God himself, right? You have the right to life. A right that you don't have is the right to vote, right? Voting is a privilege, yet it's always touted as a right. And these people don't understand this. Yeah, you're right. Rights are religious in that they are given to us by God, yes.
It's a term that has become not useful. And it may have been useful at a time. It may even be a term that used to have a definition or should have a definition.
Right.
But there are a lot of terms that are just not useful anymore in a conversation because they don't clarify anything.
What?
Well, right, rights, that's one. It's just not, I'm not saying rights don't exist. I'm saying it's not a useful term in a conversation most of the time. Because when somebody says, oh, I have a right to this, I don't know what they mean by that. And I think they don't know what they mean by that.
Right. I don't think they care, actually.
Yeah. But also racism, white supremacy, anti-Semitism, any of the isms, these are not useful terms anymore.
I think he
because
brought her up.
Yeah, we were calling someone racist. That doesn't tell me anything about him, actually. It could be, if you're pointing to a guy saying that guy's racist, maybe he thinks that all black people are inferior and should be enslaved. That's racist. So maybe that's what you're telling me about him. But you could be trying to tell me that that's a guy who understands that young black males are disproportionately violent, and he has pointed that out. So you could be using the term to describe that also, which is not actually racist at all. So when you say racist, I don't know what you mean. So it's not a useful term.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Walsh makes his point, and I do think this is where the right is kind of winning a little bit on the battle of language. Not that the right is winning, though the left has lost it. They've overplayed their hand. These people that want to just parade these ad homs all day and night across the board to everyone, nobody cares anymore. We don't care anymore because it doesn't mean anything. It holds no value. Zeb, you met Lily Gaddis. I think she's from where I live. She's from Wilmington. I haven't met her, but
Who is that?
she's one of the 18 billion girls that dropped the N-word in a video and then kind of blew up. The problem I have an issue with women in front of cameras, period. So, I mean, would I do a podcast with her? I mean, I don't see why not, but I generally stay away
I don't
from
know
that.
I just looked up a picture of her. This is the most e-girl, like e-thought looking girl I've ever seen.
Yeah,
like,
she's there, dude.
is this someone worth engaging with?
Dude, she's
basically
on the
a
Blaze.
prostitute.
I think she got a contract with the Blaze, dude. Blaze, where's my contract? Oh, never mind. I dropped F-bombs. Sorry.
Not quite Candace Owens.
Yeah, I say.
Do you
too
like
many-
Candace Owens?
Do I like Candace Owens? Again, I'll go back to I'm just not a fan of women in front of the camera.
I like Candace Owens.
I mean, she says some good. Yeah, she says some good things. I think a lot of her stuff is.
Malarkey says that she follows you. I
Yeah,
assume-
she follows me. I had some interaction with her on Twitter. Decent interaction. I mean, I don't have anything against her personal. I'm just not a huge fan. Again, I will not intentionally. Oh, this sounds so bad. I'm not going to intentionally have a woman on my show because I don't care. I don't think they should have a voice, so I'm not going to give it to them. I mean,
you know, it's so funny. My girlfriend, she watches the show and she was like, "So is Zeb a sexist?" I'm like, "No, but you got to understand that."
I'm not a misogynist, but I am a sexist, if that makes sense.
It's fair.
I'll tell you what. Matt Walsh tweeted exactly that the other day. Let me find it. Go ahead. Let me find that. I'm gonna read it to you.
She's the GOAT, underrated. A is freak.
Yeah, she says
What does
some good
she?
stuff,
What
dude.
does she do? Like I've never seen this girl before. What does she say and do?
She has a talking head show now with the Blaze.
The problem is so often you see like these girls, like conservative girls. They're basically like Nala. That's her name, right? Nala.
Yeah.
Where they're basically like people that had an OnlyFans yesterday. The money's dried up, and so now they've seen the light now, and they've just rebranded themselves because guys like to see pretty girls and it's always like, oh look, this whore from yesterday is now a Christian convert, and people go, oh, you're so brave. But the thing is, you're still in front of a camera. Like it's not my place to question, but I'm questioning it. You know what I mean? I mean, like Nala.
Was Nick saying no e-girls never?
No e-girls never.
Except he broke his own rule.
When he do that?
Are we gonna hash this out?
Who's
We can
the
start
e-girl?
with Brittany Venti.
Well, he didn't date her. He meant dating.
Is that what he meant?
Yeah, he meant never. He meant never. Like
Maybe he
sleep
should have
with-
plotted it generally, and then we'd be in a better situation. Oh, dude, I'm trying to find this thing. Anyway, I thought it was Matt Walsh. Maybe it's not, but he basically says, "I'm not a misogynist, but I am a sexist." Right? And I think that's true. I think I acknowledge that sexes are different. Does that make me sexist?
By today's standard, absolutely. It's like anti-Semitism. It's like, yeah, men and women are ordained for certain roles and things. They can't do everything the other can do.
Yeah, I do like Rachel Wilson too. I mean, I haven't listened to a ton of her stuff, but even
For a guy who doesn't like e-girls, you sure know a lot of them. I'm not sure who.
dude,
any
I'm
of
plugged
these
into
people
all
are.
the circles, dog. Well, Rachel Wilson is just Andrew Wilson's
I'm giving you
wife.
crap.
But I mean, they seem to have a very good dynamic when it comes to being in front of the camera. So, and I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna go down that road, boys. Not yet. Maybe next year.
Be more specific.
It means something I don't like.
Was it Joe Webbin's
Like
tweet?
something that gets in.
It might have been Joe Webbin's tweet. They call Joe Webbin Timu Matt Walsh. God, maybe it was. You know who Joe Webbin is?
Yeah.
Let me find it real quick so I can quote it if I can type. You say you do know who Joe Webbin is?
Yeah, I've
Dude,
seen.
he's-
I don't like watch him, but I know I've seen him before. Yeah, more recently than not. Malarkey says, what was it? Lily Gibbons?
Gaddis.
Lily Gaddis is a master on feminism. I'm trying to get her to do a speech for Uncensored America.
Okay.
Cool.
I might be able to line that up or help line it up again, I guess. Yeah, it is a Joe Webben tweet. He said, I'm not misogynist, I'm sexist. Sexism is beautifully biblical virtue that honors Christ and strengthens families and society. Yeah, I mean, I think that's true. Misogyny's out, sexism's in. Let's go, boys. Hopefully those words didn't trigger anything.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You're saying there's something about that guy that I don't like.
Yeah, right. I want this thing, and you're between me and this thing, and how do I get you out of my way? How do I incapacitate or destroy you so I can get what I want? You're racist, or any of those other terms. Like,
Right.
You're in the way.
Exactly. Ever since feminism took hold, divorce rates have skyrocketed, birth rates have plummeted. I mean, we're watching the disintegration of the family unit in real time, and people are less happy. They're unhappy. I mean, as much as there's this cliche kind of image of the 1950s housewife who, you know, was depressed and it's all the Hollywood films are always like with this image of the housewife was depressed and she was on whatever drugs secretly, and you know the husband was off having sex with the secretary, and most of that is just Hollywood. It's a Hollywood cartoon, and in reality, it's kind of the opposite. Now is when all that is happening. The women are depressed, anxiety riddled, on antidepressants. Men too. So birth rates plummeting, 60 million dead babies, divorce rates skyrocketed. People are unhappy. They're on antidepressants. You don't need to go much farther.
You don't. So
Well, see, the problem, he's talking about the feminism causing rising divorce rates and all this and that. This is the logical conclusion of feminism. If you blur the gender roles, you're going to have a destabilized society. That's it. And the problem is when I say something like transgenderism is feminism, that's a problem for people. When I say something like transhumanism is feminism, that's a problem for people. It shouldn't be, but it is, and I don't know what the issue is, and typically it's with women, but this is the case. These are logical conclusions to the thing itself, and if it is a logical conclusion, then there's no separation to be had, right? If feminism says that men are equal to women, or women are equal to men, or women can do everything a man can do, the logical conclusion of that is men are women. That's how you get there.
Right.
And to act as if there's a biological distinction from an appearance and not from the way we act, the way we think, the way we perceive the world is delusional. And so that's the problem we have is you have the feminists of the 20s that are, I guess you could call them TERFs now, that believe that feminism says, oh, women can do things that men can do. Maybe not all of them, but most of them. But yet men aren't women. They're drawing an arbitrary line. And the problem is when you draw an arbitrary line, there is no real line because it can just be changed. You move the goalpost, if you will, continually down the line. And that's exactly what we're seeing, though we were called out for a slippery slope fallacy. That's not actually a fallacy.
let's say you're emerging from adolescence into the world you're describing now. You're 18-year-old male, American born. What's your program? What's your advice to that kid? How do you make your way in this world? What do you do? How do you live a happy, meaningful life that gets you in the end to heaven, given that, you're facing these cultural headwinds? What would you do if you're 18 right now?
I would do the same thing that a version of what I did do. The roadmap is the same.
They kind of get into like relationships for younger people moving into getting older. You want to talk about that? I know
I'd rather
younger.
skip to the what comment.
When you point to
what
someone
that
and you
is?
say that person shouldn't be platformed,
Yeah, it's like at the very end.
all you're doing, if you're worried about what the person is saying, all you're doing is making people more interested in what that person says. I know I'm that way. If I hear that there's a controversy because so-and-so was platformed,
Tucker.
I've never heard that person, I immediately say, oh, what's this person all about? I got to look into them.
Yeah.
I always do that.
Oh, I take it one step farther and then book the person on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, always, of course.
Because it's like whatever it is you said that upsets people, I'm interested because people are so upset. I might not agree with it, but I'm interested. And I just reject in principle. Like if you are telling me that I shouldn't hear that person or talk to them or take them seriously or listen to their ideas, just in principle, I want to say, no, F you. Now I'm going to listen even more. Now I'm going to listen to a 2-hour podcast that I would have listened to.
I think this is the nature of younger men nowadays. I think this is what they want to do. If something is provocative, they want to know why it's provocative. And this hasn't been the case for a very, very long time. Why? Because society, at least I keep saying this, society and the stability and the volatility that comes with either or, right? If you have a stable society, you just accept that things are the way they are, and then you move on down the road without questioning what is. And so we have this volatility happening now, and so naturally you're going to question what's going on and how did we get here. And so this is what we see with the boomers growing up, is they had this stability of society, yet it was being encroached because they had their guard down. They didn't ask questions. And now we have our guard up because it's volatile, because there's all these crazies out there. And so now we're asking questions and we're getting answers that they don't want us to have answers to.
Otherwise, just because you said that.
Exactly. And especially if you don't explain the person's ideas and why they're wrong. I mean, I think a lot of ideas are wrong, and there are a lot of poisonous people out there selling crap, poisonous crap. I completely agree with that. I just think it's important, it's essential, it should be required to explain why it's wrong, not just that it's bad. What did you think of the debate? A lot of this kind of broke through the surface in the debate between Dave Smith and Douglas Murray on Rogan a couple of weeks ago. Did you watch that? And
I did. I watched. I ended up watching. I wasn't planning on watching the whole thing, but I watched the whole thing over the course of a few days. It was a long debate, and I have a different. I come in with a different perspective than maybe some people who are really interested in the debate. In that I don't have a dog in the fight.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. Everyone is. I'm constantly hearing from the peanut gallery demanding that I kind of give my verdict or my take on Israel and Israel versus Palestine and all this kind of stuff. And I have given my take, and my take is I don't care that much. So I just don't care that much. I'm not just America first. I'm an American chauvinist in that I only care about my own country. I honestly don't care about other countries.
I'm an American chauvinist in that I don't really care about any other country. I only care about my own country. I mean, this is the take, dude. This is natural affection. There's a hierarchy of affection. There's a hierarchy of love, and love is a zero-sum game. You can't give everyone the same love, and they kind of get into this a little bit deeper here in a second. But go ahead.
Yeah, he talks about that. We're basically in just a second here, but yeah, he talks about how it's like it is not hating someone to love someone else more than you love them. Like he brings up the illustration of a baby in China. Like you hear about your best friend's child dying. You're going to cry. Like it's going to suck. You hear about a baby dying in China. That sucks. And then you go to the drive-thru and then you get a cheeseburger and then that's it. Yeah.
I wish them well. I don't wish any of them. I don't wish them ill.
Unless somebody claims it's COVID-19 and people are just falling over in the streets, and then we gotta have a generational global freak out, and everybody's got to wear a mask, or you're going to get jailed.
I wish the people of other countries well. I think they all have a right to defend themselves, and they should. I think that if you can't defend yourself as a nation, or if you can't survive without being propped up by another government, say ours, then you shouldn't exist as a country. That's just the way of the world. So
wait. If you can't exist,
wait. What did you say? See, I think Walsh is exactly correct here, but the problem is the follow-on from it is he's exactly wrong. I don't know how. I mean, I do know how you flip-flop. We all know how you flip-flop so quick on something like this.
Being propped up by another government, say ours, you shouldn't exist.
Yep.
Israel cannot exist without being propped up by the United States.
You think so?
Its nuclear program came from the United States. Its weapons come from the United States. Its economy is supported by the United States. I'm not attacking Israel. I'm just saying, in point of fact, I think that's true.
I'm not attacking.
Josh, do you know how much money we've given Israel since October 7th?
Since October 7th? No, I know the average like before that was like what, 3.7 billion per year. And then since October 7th, I think it's like 64 billion.
I read 18, but the problem is you can't quantify it.
Yeah.
You can't, because we give them money. Yes, we give them money. We give them grants. We give them loans that are forgiven. But the problem is you can't quantify what we actually give Israel. What have we given them? We've given them Desert Shield, Desert Storm, OIE, Operation Enduring Freedom, Operation Iraqi Freedom. Like, we've given them war. That's what we've given them. We've given them everything. We've given them American lives. Like, how do you quantify this?
Right.
You can't. You can't quantify it.
What do they say? Like, how many trillions of dollars did we spend over the last 20 years being over there? You could argue that was all for them. Like that, they directly benefited from that. Anybody
that makes the claim that Israel can exist without America is delusional. Like, these people should not be engaged ever again. Like, they're either bad faith or they're delusional, or they're being paid off.
This is what we were talking about the other day. It is possible for them to exist without our help, but what that entails is for them not to pursue their ideal of a greater Israel. It requires them to sell off land that they've acquired.
I don't think they can exist even without that.
Well, like, maybe you could argue that in the 80s, but they've pushed it too far.
No,
They are past the point of no return.
What strategic geography do they have? They have none. I mean, they're butted up to the Mediterranean Sea, but the problem is they're surrounded by everyone that hates them. And there's really nowhere else for them to go to get away from that situation. But they simply cannot exist without the American military, without American funding. Now, you'll hear the claim come back, oh, it's only 0.8% of their GDP. Well, the problem is 20 years ago, it was 50% of their GDP. Just because their GDP's gone up doesn't mean that they can exist without us. And the problem is, again, it's my taxpayer money that would go towards paying for the house or paying for the kid or buying food or going to actually do work myself, right? Things that would benefit me and my society are going overseas, literally the polar opposite of where we're from, where we live, on the other side of the world. Like, I'm tired. I don't want to send my money over there.
I mean, Israel thinks it's true, or they wouldn't have armies of lobbyists and influencers in the United States.
And the problem is, if the argument of it's only 0.8% of their GDP, well, good. They can do without it. So let's stop sending it to them.
This right here, I don't know, because it's like a 30-second rewind, but what Tucker just said, I was genuinely like, damn, Tucker, I didn't think that would come out of your mouth.
I wish the people of other countries well. I think they all have a right to defend themselves, and they should. I think that if you can't defend yourself as a nation, or if you can't survive without being propped up by another government, say ours, then you shouldn't exist as a country. That's just the way of the world. So
wait. If you can't exist without being propped up by another government, say ours, you shouldn't exist. Yeah. Israel cannot exist without being propped up by the United States.
You think so?
Its nuclear program came from the United States. Its weapons come from the United States. Its economy is supported by the United States. I'm not attacking Israel. I'm just saying, in point of fact, I think that's true. And I mean, Israel thinks it's true, or they wouldn't have armies of lobbyists and influencers in the United States. Bibi wouldn't have shown up twice in the past 3 months.
Yeah. I mean, the way
I was like,
yeah.
Huh? Tucker said that of all people?
I think he's on board, dude. Or at least enough to be questionably a spook.
I mean, I mean, I definitely think he's a spook. I think what he's trying to do is get ahead of it.
You think so? Dude,
Yeah.
I don't think there is getting ahead of it. I don't think there's any getting ahead of it.
No, I don't think there is either, but I think they're trying to. Yeah.
Possibly. Nanto says there's a debate between Jay Dyer and AP. Honestly, man, AP's his performance was so bad. I actually think it's a waste of time to even watch anything he does from now on. It was so bad. I don't think he should be engaged. I think he should be tucked under the table for a year, let him study and become an unbaby Christian. He needs to mature in his Christianity before he starts taking on debates like this. Now, the topic might be Western involvement in funding terrorist groups in the Middle East. But the problem is, it could be read as the topic is Christendom's involvement in funding enemies of Jews in the Middle East, right? I mean, all of this boils down to religion. And so, I mean, if something decent comes out of it, I'll watch some clips, but I don't care too much to engage with anything AP does anymore. Dude, it was that bad. It's the only thing I've seen from him. I honestly couldn't care less to watch anything else. Yeah. I wish it wasn't this way, but it is. Sorry.
From my perspective, it seems like they can handle themselves quite fine.
How long? How long are we streaming, Josh? We got another 45 minutes. We'll probably go to 5.
But any country, if there is any country out there that fundamentally cannot exist without being subsidized by American taxpayers, then not only should that country not exist, but that country already does not exist. It's not really.
I would take it a step further. A step further. They want to bring up Israel. I would bring up NATO. I would bring up the EU. I would bring up the UN. I would bring up everything else that we provide defense for. Not only funding, but defense. The problem is we are the world's police. All of our military, all of our funding that goes into our military is essentially funding for everybody else's military because that's what we do. And it needs to stop.
Well, and also I think it needs to be stated because there is something to say. Like, I don't think you and I'm definitely not, but I don't think you are a total absolute isolationist. I mean, obviously, yeah, of course, it makes sense. But my thing is what we have going on now, similar to the whole tariff situation, is we give out our security with almost almost nothing in return,
Nothing
other
in
than like
return.
a couple. Like it should basically be stated like, look, Indonesia, or like name some just tiny country. It's like, listen, we'll help you out, but you are our bitch forever until somehow you can defeat us. Your ass is mine for
it's just-
eternity.
I mean, I'm not opposed to an American empire. The problem is the American empire should work for Americans
Right.
and not the other way around, right? We shouldn't be exporting pride flags. We should be, I don't know, colonizing places that need civilization and then using that as a force for good in America. Copy paste Great Britain 1400s. I mean, this is easy.
country.
Right? No, it's
And unless we want to go back to the old way, which was, back in the bad old days, when we did real empires, if you want to just be conquered and you're going to be you're going to be a vassal state of ours, and we're going to sort of own you, then that's one system. We don't really do that, at least not directly anymore. So if you
can I just ask you, that's such an interesting. Not only does it have no right to exist, it already doesn't exist. It's not a real country.
yeah, not a real country. If any country that
Right,
is
that's true of.
Yeah. Now, I'm not convinced at all that is true of Israel. I'm not convinced at all.
Yeah,
that's
I mean, I don't know either, by the way, and I think Israel seems like a perfectly functional and strong country, including with a strong economy that goes up and down, but basically.
Oh, let me run cover for myself. I got to run cover for my. I don't think it's true of Israel, but
Some of my dad's work buddies are going to kill me if I don't clarify that.
I mean, they have a robust tech sector. They've got a lot going for them. And so I think I kind of agree. I'm just saying they don't seem to feel that way, but who knows what the truth is.
I think that if we were to withdraw, I think we should withdraw all federal, all foreign aid from every country. I don't think we should be doing it at all. I think
Really?
and I think if we did that, I think Israel would still exist. I think if we took away all the foreign aid, tomorrow, next week, 2 months from now, Israel would still be
I agree with that.
a country.
Yes.
There are probably other countries on the planet that just would not exist anymore.
But countries have to make more realistic decisions when there's no backstop in the same way that people do. And in the same way that people on welfare or people with trust funds equally kind of tend to make terrible decisions about their own lives. I think that it's also true for countries. You get way overextended when you're dependent.
Yeah, and by the way, this is when I say that a country that can't survive without us shouldn't exist or doesn't exist.
Pause it real quick. This is another thing. Like it's the conservative like scapegoating where it's like,
coke,
well, here's
dude.
the thing. Here's the thing is it's actually bad for them too. Who cares? Like you're conceding that it matters what they think. We matter. They do not in the grand scheme of things. We need to look out for ourselves. I don't care if a little bit like a little bit of Europe, for other reasons, but like Indonesia and like the Philippines, it's like, oh, it's bad for their development as nations if we help them out. Don't care. They'd figure it out if they could, and if they can, they will. We need to look out for ourselves. And if offering them military assistance in terms for like their basically indentured servitude, that's what matters, not nurturing their growth.
it's essentially what Trump was arguing to give Zelensky in Ukraine. It's like, we'll give you the military funding, but we're going to take everything you have when it comes to minerals, right? There has to be something in return. If we're giving you trillions of dollars of military industrial complex, we got to get something back, dude. All of this has been just, I don't know, unwarranted reparations to the rest of the world.
That's not any kind of like moral judgment. It's just, this is the way of human civilization. You have to be able to, stand on your own 2 feet to even qualify as a country.
Right.
And I think the American taxpayers have been saddled for many years now with propping up country after country after country. When that is not a responsibility that should fall to me or you or to my kids. Our responsibility is to ourselves. And it's also true of us. If we could not exist,
Well, I agree.
if we were depending on welfare from some other country in order to exist, then I would say that we're not a country anymore.
See, I think, okay, here's my position on this. If we were depending on welfare from another country, I don't think we would do that for long. I think Americans would provide for themselves in a generality. I don't think we would be, I don't know, Taiwan, Israel, any of these countries that are just relying on the American taxpayer. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think generally the nature of the people in America would provide themselves for that. Just saw chat. Random question. Let's see. Random question. I'm not going to read it. We're going to read it on stream. How would U.S. protection sit with Russia? Isn't the whole point of Ukraine not joining NATO to give Russia space and sense of. Okay, so dude, I've been calling to defund NATO. I mean, NATO was built out of the Cold War, essentially to kind of combat Russia. The question is, isn't the whole point of Ukraine not joining NATO to give Russia space and sense of security? Right. NATO expansionism is aggression into Russia. That's the entire purpose. Maybe not entirely, but that's a large portion of why Russia retaliated, because they are a border country. I mean, that's quite literally what Ukraine means. And so there was supposed to be a buffer between NATO countries and Russia, but the problem is we're pushing up anti-ballistic missiles, land to air, land to land, land to sea missiles into Ukraine, butting it up against Russia. And so they didn't want that. I think Putin would have been fine with an agreement to kind of hand over half of Russia, which I don't entirely disagree with Putin's push into resaddling Russia prior to the USSR. What?
No. Sorry. You answered my question just then.
What was the question?
I was confused on what you were saying, but
Did it get there? Maybe.
Yeah.
So, take it away and like let whatever happens happens. Let the thing fall apart, and maybe from the ashes we can build a real country. That would be my take if it was true of us. So,
How did we get? I vehemently agree with you. I don't think I've ever heard it as well put. But I don't think anything you said is radical. I think it's, as you just said, it's the way of human civilization. How do we get to a place where that qualifies as a radical view?
I think it's people have been conditioned that xenophobia is a great sin, and so I don't know. I don't really understand it because I've never felt it. But for a lot of people, they just it feels wrong to them to actually prioritize their own country. I guess it feels unnatural to people, which is crazy. It's bizarre because to me it's the most natural thing in the world. Like
It's not even that. It's
should
not
not be
even that.
controversial to
It's
say.
that our country has been filled up with people that aren't American, that aren't from this country. I mean, like we talk about, like American sovereignty all the time. How can you argue? This goes into our topic yesterday about, foreigners in the government. Ilhan Omar, what is she, like a congresswoman from Minnesota?
Yeah.
Okay, so she is born in Somalia, wears a turban, is Muslim. People say she's married to her brother. Who knows?
I think she admitted to it on camera.
I wouldn't be surprised. But the point is why is someone from Somalia telling people from Minnesota how they should live their lives? Why is someone from Somalia telling anyone in America what to do? Why are they allowed in the legislature? And like there was a issue in Somalia recently, and she pledged her allegiance to Somalia. She said she was going to do everything in her power to ensure Somalia's security. Kash Patel, Trump's appointee to the FBI, there was a terrorist attack in India by Pakistanis. He swears America's allegiance to India. It's clear that these people have dual allegiance. And you know what? If you want to come into this country and you have some, allegiance to where you came from, that's one thing. But you can't be upset when we say, all right, you want to be here, you want to have an allegiance to another country, you get limited forms of citizenship, and you cannot govern. You are not allowed to tell Americans what to do and how to live if you are not American.
Yeah, I don't want a non-American telling me what is an American. I mean, it boils down to that. Yeah, they want their cake and eat it too. They want this influx of immigration at will with no cap on it. Yet at the same time, we have to fund these other countries where these people are coming from into the U.S. If I'm just making a logical argument here, we have to pick one. Obviously, I'd rather neither, but they want both. And so the question is, do we want the influx or can we fund them over there? And I would say neither, but the problem is they are getting their cake and eating it too.
I care more about my country than I care about anybody else. I care more about the people in my country than I care about anyone else. And the amount that I sort of care about you, it increases the closer you are to me. That's the way people work. So I care the most about my own kids. I care more about my own kids than anyone else. If my kids are in a fire and someone else is in a fire, I'm saving my own kids 1,000 times out of 1,000. If I had to choose between one of my kids and 1,000 other people, I'd save my kid over the 1,000 because that's my, they're my kids. That's my blood. And then, branching out from there, I care about my family, my larger family. I care about from there, my community where I live. And then, there's a subsidiarity. And then branching out from there, I care about
Concentric circles of obligation.
exactly. And that should just be so natural. That's how people work, and that's how everyone works. Like,
Let's see if I can find that chart.
if I told you, anyone who hears this and thinks that it sounds cruel or something, well, if I came to you and told you that your friend's child died, you would be really broken up, I would assume.
In
Right?
tears. Yeah, I
You'd
would.
be in tears about it. If I came to you and said, just a few minutes ago, a child in China was hit by a car and died, you would say, oh, that's too bad.
It's sad.
And then you would not think about it again.
Correct.
You would move on with your life and never even think about it. Even though that's a child. It's a child. The child died. It's a terrible thing. It's really sad. Objectively, that child in China dying, objectively, is as terrible as your friend's child dying. But your attachment to that child in China is much less. Is basically non-existent. Your obligation to that child
But
is
the idea,
non-existent.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously true. I want to bring up this if I can. It covers your face up, Josh. Your pretty little face.
No.
How about this one?
Malarkey says F. We might be down again.
Are we?
Damn, stream's gone again. Might be copyright. I think it was copyright.
All right, we'll go live.
I mean, well, forget,
Run it again.
forget the Tucker thing. We're pretty much done with it anyway.